My name is Richard Smith, and this is my video project for Introduction to Ethnic Studies with Professor Sandra McDonald. Do you trust your government? Do you believe the United States government has the American people's best interest in mind? In the last 60 years, there have been several incidents which have put our faith in the U.S. government into check. Let's go back to the mid-40s. After the Allies suffered massive casualties during the Second World War, the British and the Americans started experimenting with the chemical lysergic acid diethylamide, more commonly known as LSD or acid.
The drug was administered in a drink of water given at the start of each day's exercise. 25 minutes later, the first effects of the drug became apparent. The men began to relax and to giggle. But this man was more seriously affected and had to be removed from the exercise. After 35 minutes, one of the radio operators had become incapable of using his set, and the efficiency of the rocket launcher team was also very impaired. 10 minutes later, the attacking section had lost all sense of urgency. Notice the bunching and indecision as they enter a wood occupied by the enemy. Almost immediately, the section commander tried to use a map to find the location of troop headquarters, and a prisoner's escort had to have the way pointed out to him, although it was in plain sight, 700 yards away over open country. 50 minutes after taking the drug, radio communication had become difficult, if not impossible, but the men are still capable of sustained physical effort. However, constructive action was still attempted by those retaining a sense of responsibility, in spite of physical symptoms. But 1 hour and 10 minutes after taking the drug, with one man climbing a tree to feed the birds, the troop commander gave up, admitting that he could no longer control himself or his men. He himself then relapsed into laughter.
The American military were also experimenting with LSD as a potential weapon.
Here is a group of normal soldiers responding correctly to a series of routine drill commands. After receiving a small dose of LSD, they're confused and undisciplined.
The idea was to spray the drug on enemy troops. The dose, however, proved rather difficult to control.
The Central Intelligence Agency was given free rein to test LSD, along with other substances, under the project code named MK-Ultra. The original purpose was to study LSD's effects with mind control, interrogation, and behavioral modification. The agency poured millions of dollars probing dozens of methods to influence and control the human mind. Because most MK-Ultra records were deliberately destroyed in 1973, it has been difficult, if not impossible, for investigators to gain a complete understanding of the more than 150 individually funded research sub-projects sponsored by MK-Ultra and related CIA programs. One 1955 MK-Ultra document gives an indication of the size and range of the effort. This document refers to the study of an assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. Substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. Materials which will prevent or counteract the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Materials which will promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing. Materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use. Substances which will produce physical disablement such as paralysis of the legs and acute anemia. Substances which will lower the ambition and general working efficiency of men when administered in undetectable amounts. Historians have learned that creating a Manchurian candidate subject through mind control techniques was undoubtedly a goal of MK-Ultra and related CIA projects. However, there is no conclusive evidence the CIA actually succeeded in controlling a person's actions through mind control. The extent of participation with MKUltra outside the CIA includes 44 American colleges or universities, 15 research foundations or pharmaceutical companies, 12 hospitals or clinics, in addition to those associated with universities, and 3 prisons. Keeping all of this information in mind, I'll now briefly go over some of the most questioned events in United States history. Let's fast forward to November 22nd, 1963, the day of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy's assassination. President Kennedy, an Irish Catholic, has been the only non-Protestant ever elected as president to this day. People have spent decades investigating the circumstances behind his broad daylight murder in Dallas, Texas. Although Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested in connection with the assassination, many Americans believe he was simply a patsy for a conspiracy cover-up. After Oswald was murdered, President Johnson created the Warren Commission, chaired by Chief Justice Earl Warren, to investigate the assassination. It concluded that Oswald was the lone assassin, but this remains disputed by some scholars and eyewitnesses. Conspiracy theories about the assassination and supposed cover-up have been put forward and have become commonplace in American culture. Let's move ahead another 4.5 years to April 4th, 1968, the day another civil rights hero was assassinated in broad daylight, Martin Luther King Jr. Some have speculated that James Earl Ray had been used as a patsy, similar to Lee Harvey Oswald. A couple of claims used to support this assertion are the fact that Ray's confession was given under pressure and he had been threatened with the death penalty. Ray was a thief and burglar and had no record of committing violent crimes with a weapon. Many suspecting a conspiracy in the assassination point out the 2 separate ballistic tests conducted on the Remington Game Master had neither conclusively proved Ray had been the killer, nor that it had even been used as the murder weapon. Moreover, witnesses surrounding King at the moment of his death say the shot came from another location, from behind thick shrubbery near the rooming house, and not from the rooming house window. Now let's move on to something a little more recent, September 11th, 2001. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone in this room could pinpoint exactly where they were the moment they heard the horrifying news that our own passenger planes had been used as guided missiles. I've heard many questions about the details of 9/11. Why did the towers fall in a manner that appeared to be a controlled demolition? Were demolitions used to give the towers a final push? Was it really a plane that hit the Pentagon? If so, why didn't the wings or engines do any damage to the building? And where did the remains of the 757 go? There has been quite a bit of controversy over what actually transpired early that morning, and who we are to blame. Was it really Osama bin Laden? Or was it all a government scheme to coerce the American people to hunger for war? This leads me to my final topic, our current war in Iraq, which officially started on March 20th, 2003. Although it has been said that the American people can be quite ignorant, I find it hard to believe that there are very many left that still believe we are in the Middle East for any other reason than oil. To my knowledge, weapons of mass destruction were never found. But if that's the case, why do the prices at the pump keep increasing? Is it such a big surprise that Exxon had a record-breaking $40 billion in profits last year? When is enough really enough? In my opinion, the fact that the American people don't know the answers to these questions isn't the worst part. What bothers me the most is the fact that we can't trust our government, which we've empowered to protect us. How does this video pertain to this class? Professor McDonald has talked to us a lot about how the government has had a great deal of influence on our perceptions of reality. So I've put together some of the situations that have stuck out in my mind that may or may not have transpired the way we've been told. Especially after doing some research about MKUltra and realizing the type of in-depth experimenting that was conducted several decades ago, it makes me question the validity of what we've been taught, and I fear what's happening behind closed doors today.